guys, and welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk with Ethan. And today I'm here with Holly Poe Durbin, who's a professional costume designer. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. So happy to be here, Ethan.
No problem. Before we get started here, we're going to play a little game called Spin the Wheel of Ethan. So let's get that wheel up and let's spin that wheel. Dogs or cats? Which do you prefer?
Oh, I have both. Oh, no. That's just like me to have both. That's why I'm a designer. I want to do everything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But having a dog is like having an eternal 3-year-old, and having cats is like having eternal teenagers. So it's very different.
That's a good way to put it. I've never heard it that way before. That's interesting. That's really funny. Well, thank you for playing the Wheel of Ethan. That was really fun.
Sure.
We'll get to know your game. Before we get started here, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, sure. So I'm a costume designer. I specialize primarily in live performance, theater, opera, and themed entertainment. But I have also done film and television when I was freelancing in Los Angeles. And for the last 12 years, I've been teaching at UC Irvine, and I'm now the head of design for the MFA programs, the Masters of Fine Art programs.
That's awesome. That sounds like a big role. The head of design.
It is.
And could you explain how you got into technical theater?
Oh, well, it actually started as an underhanded scheme in high school to get to know a guy that I was interested in. I could see him in the halls, but we didn't have any classes together. So he belonged to something random like the chess club and the theater club. And so I just kind of threw a dart and joined the theater club. And happily it worked. We dated for a whole summer. But then we sort of lost interest, you know, how you do. But
exactly.
By then I was hooked on theater. And I didn't know that I wanted to be a costume designer then. I had no idea that was a job. So I just kind of kicked around in different tech aspects. I've never performed, except the one time I was pulled on stage to be the rear end of a cow, but that's a whole different kind of story. So I've never been a performer, always a technician and designer.
That's awesome. So did you take theater classes after that club, or?
I did. I took some theater classes, but I started college thinking I was going to be either a lawyer or a child psychologist. So I was an art history major and an English literature major, but I took so many theater classes that it ended up being a minor for me. And I got involved in theater at college. So, and when I was 19, I started doing summer stock jobs in summer theaters. And so that's how I really got my training, not so much in a classroom, but doing it.
Yeah, that's how you do it, right? You learn on the job.
That's exactly right. What we do has literally been handed down since before the Greeks, literally. We've had to teach each other how to do it.
It's crazy it goes that far back. I didn't know it went that far back.
Yeah, it does, indeed. And they had flying machines in Greece and everything. It's so interesting when we look back how long we've been doing this, right?
Exactly. See, I mean, when you think it's like, only, like the early 2000s, it goes farther than that.
Mm-hmm. It's a very proud tradition. Yeah, absolutely.
And could you tell us a little bit about the programs you offer at UC Irvine? You're the head of design there, you said.
Yes. We are primarily a graduate program. We offer MFAs in scenic design, costume design, lighting design, and sound design, and also stage management, directing, if you're interested in that as well. But we do have a small but mighty cohort of undergraduates who either know that early that they're interested in tech or design, or they came as actors and discovered along the way We turned them to the dark side. Wahaha. We lured them to technical theater. So if you are an undergraduate in our program, there are a lot of classes to take, and you have the opportunity to work directly with the graduate students and the faculty, and sometimes even take graduate classes while you're still an undergrad. I personally teach the advanced design courses in costumes, so I teach primarily graduate students in design, but I teach undergraduates in things like visual storytelling and costume history and that kind of thing.
Nice. And how many classes do you teach altogether?
I teach probably about 6 a year or so, which is a lot.
Okay. Yeah, that's semester, yeah?
We're on the quarter system.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2 per quarter.
Okay, cool. So that makes sense. It's college, right? It's different than high school.
That's
and all
right.
That. For sure.
Absolutely.
Did you know you wanted to go into teaching?
Oh, no. As a matter of fact, I said I would never teach. And I think what happened to me was there was a screenwriter strike. I don't know if you know about that. In like 2007 or so, all the screenwriters went on strike. And that's when reality TV was invented, because it was called unscripted, although it's not entirely unscripted. So a lot of us lost our jobs. A lot of projects canceled because they were worried about that. So I took a couple of teaching jobs here and there just to tide myself over. And I found out I really enjoyed it. I can still design. I can still have an outside career, but I loved teaching. And so one thing led to another, and I ended up at UC Irvine teaching here. So it was not intended I'd do it.
That's great. I'm glad you enjoy it. It sounds like it's a fun job to you.
It is. I love it. I could do it forever. I think I will. Passions of what we love. That's right.
It's always great to have passion.
That's exactly right. My days are always fun.
Exactly. What sparked your interest in costume design?
Well, I kicked around all through college. I did a little bit of everything: stage management. I worked on all the crews, which I think is actually a really good preparation to understand how a show is fully put together. But I did settle on costume just by trying it and then realizing how much I liked the artistry of it. It's like making little sculptures. It combines so many things that I love. I think every person in theater is a Renaissance person, and we love so many things, and you can only do it in the theater. Make things with your hands, or study things on a scholarly level, or be artists or craftsmen. We have to be able to do it all. And so I think I gravitated toward costume. All of us in theater have to be storytellers by nature. And so I think the part of storytelling that appealed to me once I tried it was working directly with the actors and directors to create compelling characters within those stories. So that's what kept me interested in costume design. You have to work very closely with an actor and a director to create a character.
You do. That's part of that job. Would you say there's a job in theater that's more important than the others, or would you say they're all combined?
Oh my gosh, all we have is each other in theater. And nobody understands that teamwork or collaboration better than theater people, because if you miss your one little thing, the whole show can start going off the rails, True. So I've often thought we have an awful lot in common with the military, where we just sort of parachute in, set up a little city, make it all work, pull it out of where, we don't have enough time, we don't have enough materials. Somehow it always happens. And there isn't anyone more important. Absolutely. We don't get the credit, really, but they're not more,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard that you said the military, kind of like the military, right? Where hop in, and I mean, in some cases it is like that, right? Like hop in to do something, and we.
It is.
Exactly.
I was once at a convention center with 1,000 theater people, USITT. I don't know if you've heard of it. And the fire alarm went off. And so we all just kicked into gear. All the people that were stage managers just naturally opened all the doors. Some of them even have clipboards. I think they walk around with clipboards all the time.
Yeah.
And we all just filed out in an orderly way and met on the sidewalk. And the conference people were thunderstruck. When the fire alarm goes off with dentists or what have you, it is complete bedlam. But they noticed that theater people are very disciplined. We do what we have to do. We know what everything means. We report to people. There's an automatic hierarchy that we all agree to work on today. It's not eternal, but today we will do this.
Yeah.
And so that really made me think how much we had in common with the military, really, in being so disciplined.
Yeah.
People don't think we are, but we are.
That's true. Well, see, I think people think or at least my impression is I think people have, theater people are weird, right? And, we don't know what's up when we do, and
we are.
The show, right? Yeah, we are in a sense, right?
We are.
Yeah.
We're the land of misfit toys, and that's just fine with me.
Exactly.
But also, and it's not also that, it's not just that we're misfits. It's like I said before, we have so many interests, so many of us that, we can't just go into one thing. We have to go into the thing where we can do it all.
Exactly. And that's why you try. That's why there's so many jobs in theater, right? It's you try.
So many.
Like you try this thing and you don't like it, move on. Try this thing.
Make up your own,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
That's very true. So you're a costume designer. What is your favorite part of designing, you say?
I think costumes has a wonderful ability to work both up close and far away. So we have to work up close with the actors and their bodies and all of the things that it takes to make a character, but we're also part of the stage picture. We have to create how the actors are going to look when they're all on stage at the same time, how the costumes relate to each other and the scenery and the lights and the sound. So in many ways, it's like being a painter to create those stage pictures. So I think it has the best of both worlds, up close and far away.
That's true. We have a comment from Facebook. Oh my God, I worked in the trade show industry for 10 years. You couldn't be more right about the fire alarm at the convention center.
Right. That's what they said. Apparently everyone else is just a mess. I don't know. I'm glad to hear that validated.
That's really funny, right? Because I've been in many emergencies in my life, but I think that really shows our true colors,
Mm-hmm. It does. When we have a job to get done and a certain time to do it, who are you going to call? Theater people.
Yeah. Or that's very true.
Pretty much
very true. Exactly. Back to your costume design. So when you design a costume, where do you get your inspiration for the colors and fabrics and all that?
Yeah, I think that's one sign of becoming a professional because particularly when you freelance, you can't always say no to a job, particularly if you want to pay your rent. And are all of those jobs going to be high art? No, they are not going to be. And so you have to find something in every show, no matter what it is. And so I just learned over the years to kind of dig down and find something that interests me in every project. And I also don't wait for inspiration. I do what I call feeding my image bank or my experience bank. So everywhere I go, I'm looking at people, I'm going to new neighborhoods, I'm trying new things, talking to people, gathering scrapbooks. My Pinterest board is just out of control. And so that way, when I do need something, I can riffle through all of those resources and think, oh, yeah, I remember I saw that sculpture. Oh, I talked to those weird fishmongers in Italy, so I always have something already there to inspire me.
That's really nice to have that outside inspiration to help you kind of, do your craft.
Yeah, you just can't make up the world. Oh my gosh. You could not make up, as we've all learned, you cannot make up what goes on. And so every single day, I'm an audience for all of that every day. I lead such a colorful interior life, I think, because I'm enjoying it so much. It's not always fun, but I'm appreciating it and soaking it up, certainly.
Definitely. Do you have a favorite garment you've designed?
My absolute favorite is one that nobody is ever going to see. And that is a fat suit that I designed for Tom Hanks when he played Falstaff in Shakespeare's Henry the Fourth, parts 1 and 2. And this was a couple of years ago. And Tom Hanks, I've worked with him over the years for this and that, and he really hasn't changed size. Talk about discipline. I've never seen anyone work as hard as he does. He was first to arrive and last to leave, and he hired special coaches to help him. So when the director and I first started talking about this show, we said, well, we have Tom Hanks, one of the most famous people in America, playing Falstaff. And so the last thing we want to do with this fat suit is make him a laughing stock. We will be laughed out of our careers. We're going to have to change our names and move away.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, well, no pressure there. Wow. So I took a very long time to design this custom fat suit, many, many thousands of dollars. And I brought in all kinds of specialists that had done special fat suits in films that had been very successful. And I figured out a way to make it modular so that the fat suit would move with him when he moved. And I am so proud of that fat suit. And because he wore a costume over it, no one will ever see it. He loved it so much, though, that he did buy it. It belongs to him. And so I'm very proud that if I could make him feel like this hugely fat character, then I have done my job. So that's it, but it's underwear. No one ever saw it. Darn it.
That's really interesting though that it's cool for when you got to work with Tom Hanks. That's awesome.
Oh yes, and he's wonderful to work with.
That's awesome. And what do you feel like? Did you have a kid? Did you feel like you got to talk with him about designing that and his opinion on that?
Yes, he's very generous, and he's also a gifted comedian. I don't know that people really have an opportunity to know that about him. I have worked with him in improv situations, and he can just let it rip when he wants to. He is so clever. And interestingly enough, in one of these improv shows I worked with him on, a piece of scenery wasn't, the stage pin wasn't put into the hole properly. So when he jumped on this door unit, it started to skate across the stage. And he is the only star I've worked with, hands down. He jumped off that piece of scenery. He found the stage pin. He tamped it in with his foot and then went right on with the show. And at the end of the show, all of the technicians backstage were there clapping when he came off stage. We're like, yay, you're the only one who ever knew where a stage pin was. And he said, oh, I majored in theater. I had to work stage crew.
So of course he did. Yes. It's Tom Hanks, right?
You're my hero. Yes. He's wonderful that way. And it's not anything to him to just fix the thing so everyone can go forward. He is a theater person.
I mean, I'm guessing that's why he got into acting, right? Because, he probably did stage crew and then, moved his way up and then found acting, right?
I'm sure he loves, I don't know, he didn't tell me this, but just seeing him, I think he loves every aspect of theater. And I've never worked with anyone who was more generous with a crew than he was.
Well, that's really amazing. I didn't know that side of. I mean, I've seen him in movies, of course, but I didn't know that side of him, and that's really awesome. So thank you for sharing that.
No, certainly.
That's really cool. When you were designing, how long did it take you to finish a piece?
There's kind of two big parts of doing the job. There's the whole pre-visualization, the pre-viz aspect. And that can take as long as you have, If you're hired late and you only have a couple of weeks, well, I've got tricks up my sleeve to pull that out in a couple of weeks if I have to, but that is far from ideal. Generally, that pre-viz, talking with the director and the other designers and doing the research, and doing the script analysis, all of that, doing the drawings can take several months, depending on the size of the show. And then we have the production period, which is once rehearsals start and we can do fittings and get things built. And that time has been shrinking as budgets have been shrinking. I used to have 6 weeks to do that. Now I'm down in some cases to 3.5 weeks before we go into Tech Week. So it can be brisk. So even more so, you have to have all your ducks in a row when you get to that brisk rehearsal period. But, 3.5, 4 weeks is a little bit more standard for me now in production.
I mean, it seems like you had a lot of time, right? It's been shrinking as things have gotten things have been budgets have been cut and those types of situations.
Yeah. And over time, you can just tell what's going to be a particular challenge with each show. That's the beauty of doing shows. The types of shows that we do, if you've done a Shakespeare, then next time you do a Shakespeare, you kind of know where something might be challenging, and so you can plan for it a little better next time. So we just keep learning and learning, and that's why it's never dull.
Definitely. For materials, where do you get your materials for these costumes?
We are very lucky in Los Angeles to have one of the last garment districts left in America. Even the one in New York is shrinking. So I do get a lot of it here through special garment district suppliers. But nowadays, we can get an awful lot of it online. And so fabrics that I fell in love with when I worked in London, I can now get sent from London. I can have things sent from the Czech Republic. It's just an amazing resource now. Why didn't I have that all my life?
Yeah, exactly.
It's changed everything.
Quick Google search. I mean, is that how that works? You just like Google search and you find the stuff you need and.
I wish it were just as easy as a Google search. A lot of the vendors and suppliers are very specialty, so we pass around resources in the industry. But sometimes you just gut through that internet search and you find that perfect person in Wisconsin that can make a crown, and you go with it.
For sure. Would you say there's like better vendors than others, like better quality materials than others in this industry?
Materials have changed a lot since everyone has started wearing spandex. We can't get a lot of the classic fabrics anymore, and they do sell those much more on the East Coast and in London or Europe more than in American markets. It's just a difference, on what we wear. But if you want a lot of the specialty things, Italy or the United States are amazing places to buy things. We have a huge textile market here. If you look at the whole country, what's available.
That's true. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's huge.
Places
huge.
are. It's crazy. Like the whole world is huge, right? And the more places you can get stuff, and it just is a masterpiece.
Absolutely.
For
And the
sure.
things, people think that we're buying cheap things in theater, but we actually have to buy very good quality because
Yeah.
something has to last a performance or catch on fire or roll over the sofa or be worn 28 times or worn every day in a theme park. There's a lot that goes into it.
Definitely. Do you prefer working in live theater, or you've done plays too, I'm guessing?
I've done plays, opera, live performances. I've done film and television. I love the all of it, actually, because all of it so far has actors and directors. And I think once I started doing film and television, I became a better theater designer because I just had to stretch different parts of my brain to design for the camera. And that made me a more complete and thorough designer. But then I was able to bring a lot of what I know to film, and a lot of film and TV people that I worked with hired me strictly because I had a theater background, and we are very well trained and disciplined and understand storytelling and have a good work ethic. So theater is excellent preparation for all of it.
That's awesome. For opera, how's that different, would you say, than regular musical theater for costume design?
Sure. I think for opera, the number of people that can sing opera are far fewer than the number of people that can sing musical theater. I don't know if fewer people train for it or what have you, but it is a global talent pool. And there are much fewer performances of an opera. There might just be 4 performances, and then the singer flies off to Milan to do their next thing, or off to the Metropolitan Opera to do their next thing. So you don't get the singers until the very last minute often. Fortunately, opera really values production values. They still spend a lot of money on their costumes. That's part of why people go to opera. And so it's fun and beautiful to work on those costumes. And opera is also very more embracing of postmodern design and conceptual design than musical theater is so far. That's changing. So again, it's just a different side of the brain. And opera people really don't break into a dance. If there's a dance, they'll bring in a dance chorus. But musical theater certainly has its share of double and triple threats that can do everything quite well. So there's a lot more consideration in musical theater for the fact that they can sing and dance and act as well.
For sure. So earlier you said when you've designed, you've had shorter and shorter times when designing, when getting these costumes ready. Have you found in opera that they give you more time because the costumes are more elaborate, or no?
If you're building that opera, then yes, the planning can start a year in advance, maybe even a bit more. But they too have to save money, and so there'll be productions where they say, "Well, we're dragging the chorus out of storage, and so you have to use these." And make new principles to go with that. And then you have a shorter period. So it just depends.
Okay, cool. So for the costume design, do you have a place you store them on site, or how does that work?
Yes, every theater always has an amazing warehouse that I think a horror film could be set in very easily. As a matter of fact, I think Vincent Price or somebody like in the 40s or 50s might actually have done that, set a movie in a prop warehouse, a storage warehouse. Those are amazing places. As you know, as we all know from being in there, I could go in there and just never come back out. The things that are in there are incredible.
Definitely. And how many like what's the size range? Like how many costumes can you fit in a warehouse? It depends, I'm guessing, the building. Yeah?
No. Well, as unglamorous as that is, that's actually a big consideration. And so people have to sell off their costumes. Universal Studios just had a big couple of sales to make more room. If you don't use something for 20 years, maybe it's time to send it on to a new lifetime somewhere else.
Definitely. That's you see, it's. I think it's cool that you can have places that you store stuff, right, and you get rid of stuff as you go and make room for more stuff, and that's how that rolls, right?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
make and you use.
That's right. Opera will hang on to things forever, though,
I
because
bet, yeah.
nothing's going to change with Carmen. Everyone's still going to die, right? And so the
Yeah.
costumes can be used forever and ever and ever. And I once opened up a seam, a hem, in a costume that had to be 50 years old. And inside, I found a seam ripper sewn into the hem. Someone had put their seam
Oh,
ripper
wow.
down and then just sewed it right into the hem. And from the age of the seam ripper, I think it had been dry cleaned 30 or 40 times. So that was weird.
Oh, wow.
It's just a weird piece of history.
Yeah, I mean, someone probably forgot, I'm guessing, and was like, oh,
Just forgot.
left
Couldn't
it.
figure out where it went. Where's my seam ripper?
Yeah, definitely. Talking of tools of the trade, what tools are involved in costume design? Or you use in costume design?
Obviously, for the rendering part, we have the traditional media, paint. I studied watercolor. I love watercolor. I haven't done it in about 10 years because I switched to digital media for painting. And then when we do work on the costumes, particularly when I was working my way up, I started as a stitcher and then a draper and became a costume director. So I actually can do pattern making and stitching. I am very rusty at it, but there is nothing more valuable to costume people than their fine scissors. I own probably 6 pair. Each one does a specific job. I keep them sharpened. I get cranky if you even look at those. Don't try to cut paper with those. Some are just for tailoring. Some are just for fabric, So we can get kind of weird about that.
Well, I mean, it's part of it, right? It's the tools you use day to day on, different projects.
Yes. And you buy one good pair, like my scissors were made in Germany. I just get them sharpened every few years, and I've had them for 25 years. They don't go anywhere if they're really good quality. So this is like my whole life in these scissors. So no, you can't borrow them. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know they had different pairs or different types of scissors for different things,
Totally.
I just use, regular scissors.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like anything, I probably couldn't tell all the different things apart in the scene shop, but I sure can tell the scissors apart.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something you learn, I'm guessing, over time, right? You use it, and no, this is this, and use it for that use.
Yes. So when we're training with people, like when I was an assistant draper, the draper would let me use her special scissors. And so I said to myself, ooh, I'm really going to make it in this industry when I can get those scissors. And so over the years, I just accrued all the scissors. And then one day I woke up, it's like a chef, they unroll the thing and they have all those knives. I unroll the thing, I have all the scissors. And I said to myself, oh, I think I must be a professional now. I own all the scissors.
When you own the equipment, you're the professional, yeah?
Must be.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, any advice you would give to young people who would want to go into costume design?
Sure. I think my older self must have come back and talked to my younger self at some point, even though I didn't know costume design was a job. One of the things I did right that I didn't know at the time was I whenever I had an opportunity to travel, I did that. You just have to open your mind and your worldview and see how the world runs and how it's different and the same. And you will always use that knowledge. But I think my younger self in high school didn't listen if my older self came back to say, take business classes. I didn't hear that, didn't know it, and I just had no idea, particularly like entrepreneurial classes. Theater people are entrepreneurs already. We make things happen that didn't exist before. We're idea people.
True.
So I wish I'd had a little bit more of that background. I did end up taking a night class about 3 years into my career in accounting. because you just wouldn't believe the amount of money and labor and people that we have to manage. And so I found I did need a little more formal training in that. So boring as accounting was, oh my God, it has been one of the more important things that I ever took.
See, I mean, I think like the little things, right? It's like the little, like math, right? We use math every single day, and we use
every
math
day. I love math.
You use math, and like
we do.
There's a use for everything.
Absolutely, there is, especially in theater. Nothing's wasted. I know the most arcane things because I had to learn it for a show, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Certainly. This was fun.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys for tuning in to Tech Talk with Ethan. See you guys next time.